Today we are joined by Lily Liu, the president of the Solana Foundation. So Lily is a seasoned entrepreneur and investor. She has co-founded companies such as Anagram and Earn.com, and she's also cultivating the blockchain, the Web3 landscape a lot in the past. And now Lily is leading the team to develop the Solana ecosystem and to empower the developer users globally. So to kick off this conversation, Lily, what about you start by sharing some of your personal experience? Like, what's your personal encounter of blockchain back to 2013?
Yes.
And how it reshaped your perspective and what led you to join Solana?
I started my career in traditional finance, and so I had real jobs at one point in time. And back in 2013, Bitcoin was not a popular thing. In fact, it was seen as fringe, maybe even dirty, probably illegal. People up to no good, and it was seen as like a money laundering instrument, laundering drug money. It was a pretty scary thing. And so that's what I thought about Bitcoin as well when I first heard about it, because back in 2013, it was really primarily just a Bitcoin world. And my friend just kept on talking to me about it. And we've all probably met people now who are very religious about cryptocurrency, really religious about their coins, which itself is a social phenomenon. And so I thought, okay, well, fine, at least I could read the white paper. And as soon as I read the white paper, I understood that there is something real, and I wanted to learn more about it. And I think that what really captivated me about Bitcoin, this very simple paper, but then a lot of discussion around it, it's this intersection between tech, economics, and governance. And in ways that those things just have such a different relationship in the crypto world. And it really made me think very deeply about what is money actually, and is money a social phenomenon itself? I think in many ways, actually, yes, it is. And then if it is, then who gets to decide who participates in that social network, if you will, and which is actually a really important thing because economic freedom is the basis for human freedom, right? So that is where this very simple white paper is just 8 pages long actually became this whole rabbit hole into a whole variety of different topics that cover technology, economics, governance, and just seemed like we now take for granted that everything's just on the internet. All content you watch, emails, communication, everything is on the internet. But then the financial rails we use today are still more similar to the world of newspapers and local radio than it is to the internet. So that just seemed like something that was ripe for change.
Yeah, so you mentioned like it is important for user to use it. Mm-hmm. And in terms of like user experience, how would you describe like how important it is to make it simple for user to adopt this kind of technology? Because not everyone can read the white paper, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I remember you once mentioned ideal user experience should be like you press it and it happens.
Yes.
Yeah, so like can you elaborate a bit more on this?
Sure. Well, that's just what we all take for granted on the internet today. You click a button and these incredible things unfurl before your eyes. You can send money around the world. You can watch incredible content. You can communicate instantly with so many people around the world. And so that's just the user experience that 5.5 billion people on the internet are used to. But then with blockchain, even now with Bitcoin, if I wanted to send you Bitcoin, you basically click send, you come back, you make lunch, you eat lunch, you come back, and you're like, okay, now it's finished. And with some of the other blockchains that have embedded smart contracts, you click a button to send you a stable coin or something like that, and you make a cup of coffee and you come back and then it's finished. That's just not the way people use the internet today. Because it's decentralized, because all these other reasons, I'm going to wait several minutes for my transaction to clear. That's much better than, for example, sending a wire, but it's still not good enough. So when I started using Solana in 2021, I started using it like many people because of trading. But then I just couldn't believe that this is actually a bona fide decentralized blockchain, but it had the snappiness and the speed of just the consumer internet. And that's what really impressed me and got me interested. And then that's how I got involved in Solana.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So can you elaborate a bit more on the roadmap for Solana? You once mentioned there is like a 3-layer framework, being that blockchain being the land, and application being the houses, and the whole entire ecosystem being the cities.
So I think that a blockchain ecosystem, it's not just one monolithic thing, right? It's not really like building a company. It's more like building a city. And there's a couple of important differentiators there. One is that we're all used to working in companies. Most of the people who work in blockchain came from tech companies. But if you think about what a company does, a company wants to accumulate all human and financial resource onto its balance sheet, right? Rather than to retain earnings, rinse and repeat. And that's just the purpose, definitionally, of what a company does. Whereas if you are, we're in this beautiful city of Singapore, and Singapore is actually a fantastic model for this. Singapore started 50 years ago with not a lot of resource, no natural resource, not a ton of great land either. But then what Singapore is able to do was to attract talent and capital to Singapore, and that's what we see around us today, which is incredible, right? And so I think a blockchain, you can think about our block space as being a bit maybe the origins of the original land of Singapore, for example, 50 years ago. And how do you attract builders and how do you attract capital who become interested in building this economy together? And so we don't want to centralize talent and capital onto the balance sheet, but we want to attract that capital and keep that human financial capital within the city. And so I think that's a really important difference between how you build a company, which a lot of people have experience in, and how you build an ecosystem or a city, if you will. And the most successful cities are ones where they actually empower people, empower the talent and the capital that comes within their borders. And that's really more of the model that we've taken inspiration from. So I think that there's kind of three components to an ecosystem. Broadly speaking, there's, of course, the network itself, the blockchain itself, because if there's no blockchain, there's nothing for anyone to do. And so you got to start with the network. And what's really unique about Solana is we actually have really differentiated technology. And starting back in 2017, 2018, one of the founders, Toli, he just came up with this idea of like, hey, if you look at cell networks, telecom networks, they actually solve to an extent this parallel execution problem with telecom. And maybe if we took some of those principles and applied it to blockchains, you could take what was up until then single lane highway processing of transactions and sort of make that into multi-lane highway. And well, that actually ended up working out. So the first thing you got to do is actually have a core network, some real tech. And then once you have a blockchain, well, that's like having the land, but then you don't really have builders. You don't have people who are actually coming and building your city. And that's why so many ecosystems are so focused on developers, application developers, folks who are going to build, metaphorically, the finance industry, right? Going to be building the various application spaces that we'll see in crypto today, including folks like Futu and Moomoo. So those are the builders that actually create interesting experiences that then users might actually want to do something with. And so that is where people are building companies, building applications, building interesting ways to use blockchain that are attractive to users. So the users actually belong to applications. So there's the network layer, there's the application layer, and more recently, what's really come into focus is the asset layer. That's why you'll hear us talk a lot about internet capital markets, bring a whole range of assets on chain, not just the crypto native stuff. Like Solana's clearly, Sol is clearly a crypto native asset. Bitcoin's a crypto native asset. These are new assets, but then also with tokenization and RWA, bringing existing assets from TradFi, at least 100 trillion, anywhere between gold as commodities to equities. That's also near and dear to what Futu does. And bring those all on chain. So you're going to have one place where you can access this whole range of assets. And I think that's really the vision that people have had for a long time, but couldn't really execute on until you had something like blockchain, which is this unified financial infrastructure that people can use anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection.
Yeah, I think that kind of well explains your vision on the internet capital markets. Mm-hmm. And I think it is very interesting to hear, like, you build this ecosystem as an open one instead of building like a closed loop company, which is very inspiring and insightful. So in terms of like beyond all these milestones you've achieved and all the broader infrastructure you have built, what are some of the key strategies you deployed in the past that help you to achieve such kind of milestone? Because we see the figure, like in last year, your ecosystem actually surpasses some major competitors, including like the revenue as well as like developer growth?
Ultimately, it's really about the community. Like if you were to ask, how did Singapore grow so much and so successfully over 50 years? Some of it has to do with Singapore strategy, but really most of the credit just goes to the people who came, were entrepreneurial, built something. All of the entrepreneurs who came to Singapore had a vision and executed on that. So really at the end of the day, it's really about the founders and the builders that have come and built amazing experiences that people actually want to use. And yes, to date, many of those things have been around trading. That's always been the case for crypto from the very beginning. But now you're seeing a broadening of what you can do with crypto. I think because regulation around the world has become much more supportive of crypto, whereas in the past it was very hostile to crypto. But, open systems always find a way to survive. And so now that there's all of this emphasis on stablecoins and non-crypto native assets, bringing them on chain, I think you're starting to see a much broader array of different experiences that people are going to be building with. I think there are a couple of elements to sort of why the Solana ecosystem, also, if you remember 2.5 years ago, was presumed to be dead at the end of 2022. But for us internally, we always saw it as, we knew that was just going to be part of a cycle. And the reason is because it comes down to a lot of what the culture of the ecosystem is. And the culture of the Solana ecosystem has always been about building something of value to other people. In this case, building something of value to users. And one of the ways you measure that is, yes, some of the traditional metrics of number of users, number of wallets, transaction count, transaction volume, those types of things. But then also revenue. People are willing to actually pay fees, right? Whether base fees and or priority fees, it means that they actually value that. And so I think that, clearly there's a big aspect in crypto around capital markets, around financial markets, and market utility, market activity is one way of measuring whether people actually value the network, the product, the experience that they're having. And so I think that when you see those metrics sort of increasing over time, it means that builders are choosing to take risk, take on the opportunity cost, leave their careers elsewhere to build something within blockchain and within Solana, which is, I think, actually one of the hardest things that people confuse to do, right? Because if you're a talented founder, you could do so many different things. Why would you come to blockchain, take all of this risk, particularly a few years ago when things were looking like, I don't know if this is even a great idea. So a lot of it comes down to, this is a culture of being a builder first. We used to use this term of chewing glass, right? So actually taking the harder path when you didn't necessarily have to. But that is how anything worth having is built, right? If it was too easy, too many people would be able to do it. And so I think what you have through that is you kind of have this core group of people that really are committed to actually building things that are of value to other people in the long term. So it's a culture, long-term orientation, and also commitment to real technology that Solana has. It is differentiated, and it also has that growth potential because it is fundamentally a platform that can deliver an experience that is close enough, or even exactly what just a regular user on the internet is going to experience. So here we are, still getting started. Yes.